Hi, Tim here with Clive Coffee. Today we're going to show you how to replace the PID on your Lucca M58. PID stands for Proportional Integral Derivative. It controls the temperature in your boilers down to 1 degree increments. This is what the PID looks like. You can see simply a circuit board in our number pad. That's the part that we're going to be replacing, and it'll be swapped out and fit right in here. The tools that we will need are very simple. We're going to use a very small flathead screwdriver and an adjustable wrench. We already have the panels off of our machine. It's very important to make sure that you have your machine turned off, unplugged, and it's ideal to have it cooled off. Let it sit for a while until the machine is cool on the inside and the boilers are not going to burn you. So again, we have our machine completely unplugged. We're going to be removing wires from our PID as we go. On the back side of the PID, you see a plastic housing that holds the circuit board. We are going to start by first documenting the order of our wires, because we're going to be removing these 4 wires that you see here. If you're looking on the replacement piece, just for visual, it's where these 4 these thin flathead screws are. It's holding 4 different wires. You want to make note of the order that they are in on your machine, because that's how you're going to put them back in on the new PID. So once you've taken a photo of that, we'll go ahead and start loosening up these 2 screws on the very back of the plastic housing. And then we can go ahead and remove them by hand. The wire that's on the right-hand side can be pulled out. And again, showing you on the circuit board, it's the wire that plugs into the board right over here. It's over down there. Go ahead and pull that out. You may need to use your flathead screwdriver just to give it enough leverage just to pop that right out. And now we can loosen the top screws that are holding our 4 wires on this left-hand side. So we'll loosen the 4 screws from the top here. And remember to make sure that you've documented the order that they are in on your machine. Once they're loosened, the wires will come out. And at this point, this plastic housing slides off and it'll slide straight back. We have access to the final plugs in the board. There are wires that go to the red, the white, and then this black pin up on the top. We're going to be removing those 3 wires and pins, and these should be able to pop out just by hand. Give them a little bit of a wiggle. And we're going to make note, the pin that is running to the red on the circuit board is plugged into our steam boiler temperature probe. And the white, once we have that removed, we can trace this line and we can see that once we have this moved out of the way, that wire, you can see if you follow that red wiring configuration, goes to a temperature probe on your coffee boiler. So again, the red is for the hotter temperature of your steam boiler, that temperature probe, and the white is for your coffee boiler temperature probe. So now that we have those unplugged, we can unplug this black pin here. So everything's loose, and the final connection point that is holding everything in place are the nuts here and on the opposite side. So what we're going to do is, using our adjustable wrench, loosen that up so that we can remove it by hand. Once it's loose, we'll do the same for the other side. Once you have removed the nut and the washer or the white spacer that's right behind it, We'll place these aside, just being very careful not to lose these tiny pieces here. And now that we've got everything, all the screws removed, I can pull the wiring out, and then the black housing slides off, and the PID slides out. And so to replace with the new PID, simply put that back in the same direction, and we'll be reattaching the wiring in the same order that we had pulled it out. Again, you'll want to slide this board in first. So it'll slide back into place. The holes that are in the front of the board are the shorter screws here. Make sure it sits all the way back in, and make sure that the buttons and the screen line up, and it pops right into place there. And we're working in reverse order. We'll start by attaching the board firmly to the machine first with these shorter anchors, and we can tighten these down. They don't need to be on incredibly tight, hand tight. You might use a little bit of force with your wrench just to make sure they don't come undone. And at this point, we will put the black housing in place with the top opening on the very top here. And with it still loose, we are going to feed our wire that goes to the display, this thicker one. This will go in the bottom. And we're also going to feed our 2 temperature probe. These have red wires versus our other pin, which has a black and a red wire. So we're going to be feeding our temperature probes. They have 2 red wires coming out of them. Otherwise, the connectors look identical. So we'll feed those in. And now with the black housing in place, I can pull this back out and pull my wires. And again, it's pretty easy to find my steam temperature probe. That is the wire. You can find that is attached to the top of this boiler right here. That's going to go to the red. Plugs into that red port on the board. And your other temperature probe is your coffee boiler, and that plugs into the white port on your board. And then our display, the wider, only fits in one plug on the board. And now that we have these 3 in place, we can slide our plastic housing the rest of the way. I would reference your photo of your wires to make sure that they go into the 4 pins on the back of the board correctly. And then this other plastic, this black plastic plug, plugs into the board just at the bottom over here. Once all of your wires are in place and this is plugged in, we can put our bolts, our tiny little nuts, back into place to hold this black plastic housing in place. And then you'll be able to turn your machine on, and you've got a new PID. The PID will come pre-programmed, so you should be able to turn the machine on and start using it in the same way that you had previously. We do have resources for what those PID settings should be if you'd like to verify. For more information on using your Lucca M58, check out the links here. For other knowledge-based articles, visit our website at clivecoffee.com.